Hi, my name is Peter Harmathy and I'm broadcasting live from my home in my living room. And today's subject is one of my paintings that I made about 7 years ago now in 2010. It is, by the way, New Year's Eve right now. And the reason I'm doing this broadcast is because this painting is probably going to be pulled down from its stretcher bars and rolled up and put back into the basement. Because I tried to sell it many times, and I tried to donate it, and I tried to donate to the Aviation Museum, but I guess it was too big or it wasn't of their liking. But regardless, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it and why I painted it. It's done in oil, and it's approximately 7 feet by 5 feet. It's the largest painting I ever made. And it took me, a lot of people will ask, how long did, that's the first question because they don't know what to ask about painters or painting. They say, how long did this take for you to make? Well, actually I did this pretty quickly, surprisingly. I did it from a photograph, and I'll tell you the difference between the photograph and the actual painting and why I decided to do it. It took me about a little over a month, maybe a month and a half to do, and I worked on it sometimes 1 hour a day or 3 hours a day. So you can't really put a price on it in terms of the hours that I put into this painting. I did originally try to sell it for $1,200, then it went down to $900, and then I tried to donate it, and that didn't work. So here we are, here's the painting, and I'll talk about it briefly. So the subject matter is a B-17 bomber. I took a liking to this kind of aircraft because I like aircraft, and this B-17 bomber photograph is based on a photograph that was taken during World War II, and color photography was quite rare back then, but it was based on a color photograph. And this is what the photograph looks like originally. You notice I made some changes in the image, and the nose art is very different. The nose art in the original image was of a gremlin, and it was believed that a gremlin was like a creature that ended up sabotaging a lot of mechanical parts of the aircraft, making it impossible to fly. So that's why they decided to put a little gremlin riding a bomb with wings. But in my image, I decided to change the nose art. I took different images, I put them together, and I had this woman sort of leaning on a bomb, and the bomb is saying peace offering. Now let me just tell you the context of this painting. The B-17 bomber was considered a high-altitude bomber. So it flew not beyond the gunning range of the ground gunning from the ground, but it kind of flew very high and dropped the bombs. Depending on the bomb, it flew either at 10,000 feet or 20,000 feet, depending on the weight of the bombs. It was considered high altitude, so a lot of the crew had to wear oxygen masks. And it was quite cold up there. And what's really fascinating about this bomber is that originally it didn't have as much defense mechanism on it. They kept adding to it as they found out that there were certain weaknesses in it. You notice that there's a gun turret here in the bottom front, right below the cockpit. The pilot cockpit is here. There's a gun turret down here. There's a guns coming out here, and there's a gun turret here in the dorsal part of the plane, and there's also a gun turret here in the ventral part, and also there's a tail gunner. It was called the B-17 Flying Fortress because it was basically a fortress, and it had to defend itself from all the incoming warcraft that tried to shoot it, planes that tried to shoot it down. What was really sad about the bombing campaign that they had in Europe, is that many of these never came back. For instance, let me just say that 13,000 of these aircraft were made during the Second World War, and only 39 survive today, and maybe 5 of those are actually flyable. So the image here is of a priest giving a blessing or prayers to the crew before they go out on their mission. You notice that all these bombs here represent all the missions that the plane was successful in. But they they did have sometimes to get blessings because it was unsure whether they would make it back alive. One example was a raid that they did on Berlin. There was about 290 aircraft that went out on Berlin, B-17 bombers. That was in 1944. Of the 290 that went out, 70 were lost. With a crew of approximately 10, that's over 700 men were lost during that raid. So the B-17 bomber, just to tell you a little bit more about it, is that it was more successful than the Lancaster bomber because it didn't have to fly during the nighttime. It flew during the daytime, hence the fact that it was metallic and would reflect sort of the color of the sky, or the color of the clouds. But it didn't matter because when these things flew very high and the heat that came out of the engines, you had the vapor trail that was over a kilometer long, and you could see it and hear it from the ground, no problem. So it wasn't really camouflaged at all. But more than the Lancaster bomber, this plane did daytime raids, and it dropped more bombs than any other aircraft did in the Second World War. Here what you have is the priest giving blessings to the crew, and the painting really interested me because it has sort of irony in it, and it has a lot of messages in it, and I like to kind of deal with those kind of themes in my art. Here we have a priest blessing the crew. The crew is about to go out and bomb innocent civilians in Europe. So is he giving a sanction to the killing that's going on? Is he giving blessing to these airmen who basically are responsible for dropping bombs? I say that because a lot of people will be offended by that, by hearing that, because they say the bombing campaign had to happen to stop Hitler's advance on Europe. But understand too that these bombers and the Lancaster bombers, my dad was Hungarian and he was brought to Dresden at the end of the Second World War, and many of these aircraft were dropping bombs practically on top of him. So, but he ended up coming in Canada anyway. But regardless, there's other forms of irony in here. There's the nose art. The nose art, by the way, because 13,000 of these bombers were produced, the crew wanted to make it theirs. They wanted to personalize the aircraft, and also having a nose art kind of reminded them. It was based for sure on the pinup art at the time, but it also reminded them of their girlfriends or their wives and so on. And it also served as a sort of good luck charm against the possibility of death. So there's lots of reasons that they had the nose art on it. And the fact that I call it peace offering is, again, a mixed message, ironic twist on the theme, is that the planes went out to create peace in the world by stopping the war. But to do that, they had to drop bombs to be able to stop the war. So the peace offering is really a bomb being dropped, but it's not really peace, it's just perpetuating the war. But in the end, they created peace, and it's killing a lot of people, and you have the woman riding the bomb, and the woman sort of undressing and so on, with the priest there as well, giving his blessings and his sanctions and so on. So what we have here is multiple messages going on, and there's a lot going on in this image that I love to portray. But in essence, it's what we call a postmodern work of art. Now, postmodern means that it is after modernism. So modernism is, for instance, they had a movement called Romanticism, then you had Realism, then you have Impressionism, and then you had Symbolism, you had Pointillism, you had Fauvism, you had Cubism. Later on you have Abstract Expressionism, and you had Minimalism. And basically all the isms were exhausted. Everything that was possible to do in art basically ended around the 1950s, And after that, something new had to be reinvented or had to be invented, because everything that's possible to do in art was done, everything original. So postmodernism really came out of the end of art and is a movement. It's part of the isms, but in essence, it spells the end of the isms. What moved us out of the modernism role of art was really, I guess, pop art and other forms of art that kind of acquired different ideas from different inspirations and so on. So what we call postmodernism sort of appropriation art. It deals with kind of mocking art. It deals with creating a different look of art. It requires that you have a little bit of education about art, a little bit of knowledge about the art history, and also what's going on in the world. So it appropriates, meaning that it kind of steals different ideas, and that's kind of what my art deals with, is that it's literally stealing from an old image, but it's bringing it into grandiose style, making it very big, and trying to bring a message about to the viewer. Now, postmodernist artists don't like to talk about their art because it is multi-layered, it has multiple meanings, it is complicated, it really encompasses a lot of ideas in one go. So you could look at this and you come back to it, you could look at it again, you get something new from it. That's what really the art today is all about. Now, what else do I want to say is, I guess that's pretty much all I want to say about this. I've kind of exhausted all the subject matter. So here's the artwork, which is going to be pulled off the stretcher bars and stored away in the basement for I don't know how long. Maybe it'll be lost and whatever, but I wasn't able to sell it. And hence, this is the plight of the artist, is that why do we do art when we can't sell our art? And of course we have other jobs to be able to support our hobby, but sometimes it's kind of disconcerting that people aren't interested in postmodern art. People aren't interested in investigating different aspects of the world around them, and they would instead like to buy artwork that is really pretty as wallpaper, let's say. It's a derivative, it's just this landscape that they put on the wall, and it's just basically decorative, has a decorative function. Artists today are postmodern, meaning that they like to think about the world, they like to express what they think about the world, they like to bring understanding to other people who look at their art, they like to shock other people in understanding different ways of viewing the world, and that's kind of what we do as artists. So anyway, this is it. I'll stop talking now. Here's the artwork, so enjoy it because it will be pulled down shortly. Let's take a look at it. And that's it for my broadcast. Again, if you'd like to, as I mentioned in other broadcasts, if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, press the subscribe button. If you'd like to share this video with others, there's a little arrow that will share it on social media. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, and enjoy your art viewing. This is the first of a series of different artworks that I'll be talking about. Thank you.